Hey, welcome. Today we're going to jump into a really profound idea that comes from the original teachings of the Lord Buddha. We're talking about how to spot and, ultimately put an end to all the suffering we unknowingly create for ourselves.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll break down the two different kinds of suffering. Then, we're going to get into what's inevitable versus what we actually make up ourselves. From there, we'll uncover the two root causes of it all, figure out how to break that cycle, and finally lay out a really practical path to finding some peace. I mean, we've all been there, right? We've all asked this question. It's this universal feeling that can just seem so relentless, so overwhelming. But what if, just what if, a huge chunk of that inescapable feeling is all based on a simple misunderstanding of what suffering actually is?
Okay, so let's get into our first big idea. The teachings bring up this totally game-changing concept. Not all suffering is created equal. And just getting your head around this difference, that's the very first step toward real freedom. This right here, this is the central idea that changes literally everything. The teaching tells us that we're not dealing with just one big solid block of suffering. No, it's actually split into two very different types, and knowing that difference is the key to working with it all. So what's really fascinating is how we can start to pull these two types of pain apart. And that brings us right to our next section, figuring out what we absolutely have to accept versus what we can actually put a stop to.
And this slide just lays it out so clearly. On one side, you've got true suffering. These are the hard, unavoidable facts of life. But on the other side, we've got artificial suffering. And that's the extra layer of pain, the reaction that we create in response to those facts.
So this first category, the teachings call it dukkha satcha, or true suffering. Think of this as the baseline reality of being human. And the key thing here is that it's something to be understood and accepted, not something to fight against. So what does this actually look like in our day-to-day lives? Well, it's getting sick, it's getting older, it's the fact that death is inevitable. It's being separated from the people we love, or that feeling of not getting something we desperately want. These are those unavoidable hits that we all take, and we feel it right at our core, right in the center of the chest. They're just facts of life. And here is the total game changer. The artificial suffering, it isn't the sickness itself or the loss, it's our own mental and emotional reaction to it. It's the resistance, the anger, the despair, all that chaotic energy that we generate, flaring up right from our chest in response to that initial impact.
This is such a powerful and honestly liberating idea. It's teaching us to accept what we can't change, while at the same time showing us that we absolutely have the power to stop creating all that extra artificial pain.
Okay, so if we're going to end this artificial suffering, we have to know where it comes from, right? We have to get to the root cause. The teachings point to a specific cause, or samudaya, for both types.
And, just like suffering itself, the origins are also split in two. On the one hand, you have the true origin, this ancient, deep-seated cause that just pops up automatically. And on the other, an artificial origin, a cause that we create right here, right now, in this very moment. So the true origin, or samudaya satcha, you can think of it like an old piece of software that's been running for a long, long time. It's an inherent cause passed down from past ignorance. And when true suffering hits this deep-seated aversion, it's called patiha, it just automatically flares up. Now, we can't just delete this program, but we can learn to see it running. The goal is to know it, not to get rid of it.
And right here, this is the absolute key that unlocks this whole thing. It's a concept called avidya, or ignorance. Now, this has nothing to do with being smart or dumb. It's a very specific kind of not knowing. It's the failure to see suffering and its real cause as they're happening right now inside of you. This is the direct fuel for all of our artificial suffering.
All right, so we've got the theory down, but how do we actually use this stuff? How do we break that chain reaction that creates all that extra, totally unnecessary pain we put ourselves through? Let's get practical. Okay, so here's the step-by-step process for breaking that chain in real time. First, you just acknowledge the true suffering when something happens. Second, you witness the true origin. That's that automatic flash of aversion flaring up inside you. And now, here's the most important step, number 3, you apply right view, or samaditthi. This is just the simple act of seeing steps 1 and 2 clearly for what they are without judging or getting tangled up in them. That one moment of clear seeing is everything. Because by doing that, you cease the artificial origin. You stop adding the fuel of ignorance. And what's the result? You end the artificial suffering. The chain is broken, and what's left behind is peace.
So let's zoom out and bring this all together. Let's look at the complete picture of this amazingly practical path to finding real, genuine peace in our lives. This table just sums it all up perfectly. When we're talking about suffering, the true kind is just the facts of life. The artificial kind is our painful reaction to those facts. When we look at the cause, the true one is that deep, automatic root. The artificial one is simply ignorance in the present moment. And that makes our task crystal clear. We acknowledge and accept the true stuff, and we abandon and cease the artificial stuff. It really is that straightforward. So you see, the big takeaway here is this incredibly empowering shift in how we look at things. The goal isn't some fantasy of a life with no pain at all. That's just not possible. The goal is a life free from the extra, self-created suffering that we pile on top of it. It's about gaining control, not over life itself, but over our reaction to it. And so, I'll just leave you with this question. And it's a really personal one. Now that you can see the difference, what artificial suffering, what extra weight will you choose to let go of today?